Welcome back to the Tula Community Podcast. I have wanted to do this episode, but outside of the podcast, not just this episode, I have just wanted to sit down and hang out, shoot the shit with Cambria for a really long time. We've followed each other for a few years now, and I think that I, roughly got connected with her in the online space through One Yoga and through her yoga teaching. And when I found her profile, we talked about it in the episode quite a lot, but when I found her profile, I saw that she had connected the sutras to hip hop and that she was like really big into hip hop and all of these things. And I love hip hop. So I was like, this is so cool that she has been able to pull, these teachings from these lyrics and from this music and from this culture. And I just was all about it. And so, we've exchanged a few messages here and there, and of course we've chatted a little bit, but this was our first time having a back and forth in real time conversation. So I'm feeling really happy that we opened up to these virtual conversations. And I remember when I was recording the Zoom episode with her, the last episode that we did, when I recorded the video, it recorded both screens at the same time. So you can watch the conversation kind of go back and forth between Andrea Morris and I. So I thought that it would be the same for Cambria and I, but when I downloaded the video to start to edit it, it seemed to have done kind of speaker view where whoever's talking is the one that's actually being recorded. So you can't see the other person. And I really wish, because when it was happening and when we were talking, I was thinking to myself, I just feel like I'm smiling the entire time that her and I are having this conversation, but I also was like, man, I feel like I'm just fangirling the whole time, like that I was just in it with her, like it was such a good conversation, and we've had, all of them are so good, and I love each like type and style that we kind of get, but some of them don't even. I completely kind of check out from the fact that you're recording a thing and that you are doing an episode and that you are working, and this was one of those times where that got to happen. So I feel really happy for that, because it's not all the time that I forget that this is like being recorded, and there's like I'm sure that many of you will know, like as soon as you hit record, there's like a little bit of an energy shift and change. And so sometimes things become a little bit like uncomfortable or like awkward, and you got to kind of like figure out how to work with that new energy as soon as things are being recorded or whatever. But between Cambria and I, like it just, I don't know, it just flowed so well. So I'm really happy to have sat down with her, and I know you'll see me like smiling a lot if you happen to be watching this or you choose to watch it, but I really wish that it recorded both screens at the same time. Oh, because my cheeks hurt. My cheeks hurt by the end of it all. So I think we could have talked for hours and hours, to be honest. So I mentioned that I've been, following her and watching her journey and things like that. And of course, I kind of got, interested in what she was sharing through, the sutras and hip hop and all of that. And then in more recent years, I've been witnessing her, start to shift a little bit more and like go into these cold plunges and cold therapy. And it's something that I dabbled in very little. There was a time where I started to do that. And so I have a bit of an understanding of it. I respect it, and I guess I kind of know what it's like, but not to the level that she knows. And I think that by the time this episode comes out, she'll be done this most recent like 100-day challenge that she's in, where she plunges every day for 100 days. So that's not something I did, but because I've done it a few times, and I started to kind of get into the world of cold plunging. When I see her do it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And the discipline, and I connected it to yoga as well, of course, right? Like there's so much connection between our disciplines and the way that the yamas, niyamas come into our world. And I just wanted to sit down with Cambria. I just thought, yoga teacher to yoga teacher, you can say the words and they know what you're talking about. It's so good. It's just so good. So here's a little bit about Cambria. Cambria Olding is an Atlantic Canada-based yoga practitioner and teacher, mother, certified cold water therapy coach, and founder of East Coast Plunge. Her work is rooted in both tradition and lived experience, shaped by over a decade of practice and years of guiding others through movement, breath, and presence. In 2001, she took her first cold plunge, an experience that shifted something deep and became a steady part of her life. Since then, she has been exploring the connection between yoga and cold water, where breath meets intensity and practice meets real life. Through motherhood, music, movement, and moments of discomfort, Cambria is interested in what it means to live the teachings, not perfectly, but honestly. Her work is about bringing the sutras off the page and into everyday life in a way that feels real, human, and accessible. I will link everything Cambria related. I think it's below for most of these streaming platforms, but below, beside, wherever it is, I will link her personal Instagram and East Coast Plunge, and then some resources that either her and I chatted about or things that she finds to be worthwhile if you want to kind of dig into different things. If you want to dig into some yogic philosophies and if you want to dig into cold exposure and research, there's some stuff there for you as well. And yeah, I hope that you connect with her and support her journey. I love to witness her and just see what she's getting up to. And I find her to be very inspirational. And she shows up. Not only does she show up, but I find that she's really real. And I think that's probably why our conversation was just so easy and like flowed between us, because there's not like whoever she says she is or whoever she presents out is exactly, you know, who she is. And you don't always, of course, find and get that. So I really like people who are just straight up and you know, you just get a sense of who they are right away, and that's what it is, you know. And so and I find her wonderful to witness, and I like watching her journey, even though I don't cold plunge anymore myself. Maybe I might dabble in a casual in a casual cold plunge here and there, but I love to watch what she's getting up to. Okay, and then I'll share a little bit about our sponsor, Everest, which when we record these episodes, you know, primarily all of them have been in person. It's something that we, you know, only recently opened up to doing these virtual episodes at a distance and what have you. And so I had to kind of rethink my strategy and ways of going about gifting things to my guest. So usually what we do is I end up taking photos of whoever I have chatted with, you know, before or after we have the conversation for the podcast. And then that becomes not only, of course, what I share the episode with on, you know, socials or whatever it is, but also I gift those photos to the guest as a thank you for being on the podcast. And now that we have these distance ones, I'm like, well, I can't really be the one that takes the photo. So I need to, you know, offer something. And I would like to share something as a, you know, an offering of gratitude and my appreciation for people's time and, you know, being keen to chat with us and share. So I ended up sending Cambria some products from Everest. And ever since I got connected with Everest, it's only been a few months since we've been part of their affiliate program, but they've been really supportive and kind to us, and like always getting back to me whenever there's something that has to shift or, you know, taking suggestion. They've just been really kind. And I love a Canadian women owned company. So I'll share the link below for Everest, and it automatically applies a discount at checkout. So if you want some products, I've gotten a few people onto them now. Onto them now because they just do such a good job. And like I think that everybody's hair has just become so much healthier and like so much more beautiful and shiny and like nourished since they started using Everest. And yeah, I'm curious to see what they get up to. But if you want that link and you've been wanting to try the product or you need a replenish, it is below there for you. Okay, I know you don't know this, but this was a lot of cuts. I made a lot of cuts in this intro. It was not a single take. Oh, what a dream it would be to do a single take intro, but it was not. But thank you so much for being here and supporting us. Thank you for supporting Cambria and yeah, and all of our work and all of the cuts that go into making this podcast and all of the restructures of whatever I'm saying here behind the scenes that you don't get to listen to, but I have to edit out. So, okay, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Okay, Cambria, it's so good to be here with you. We've already chatted for a little while because it's just the way that's just the way that ends up happening. And like
Yeah.
I said when I we started on this Zoom call, right away. I was like, finally, finally, here we are
Yeah.
together after all these years. So if you'd like to take some time to introduce yourself and yeah, share a bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Cambria. I've been on the journey of, I don't know what you call it anymore. I used to say yoga, but now it's just, I think, wellness. So I've been on the yoga journey. It started for me about 10 years ago. I've been teaching for 8 of those years now. And then the past 5 years, actually, I've gotten really into cold water therapy or cold plunges. And this isn't necessarily like what some people know it as of maybe a polar dip on New Year's where you run in and out of the water. Cold water therapy is where you're going in with intention to stay in the water. A lot of people do it obviously for their different reasons, which we can find out later or talk about later. But for me, it is again about finding that wellness for mind, body, and soul complete. So now on my journey, I incorporate both yoga and cold water therapy together to just offer it to people to also find their way to bring it into their practices. And for me, the reason why I began all this, I don't know, like there was one point in my life where I was just kind of felt like, what's the point or what are we doing here anymore? A lot of like stuff was coming up. I was going through a pretty hard relationship at the time too. And so when I found yoga, it was more just about like my friend inviting me out to hot yoga because it was the cool thing to do then. Like, oh, come to a hot yoga class. It's
For
Friday. I'm like,
exercise.
okay.
Yeah.
Right. And if anyone remembers Moksha, their name's Moto now, but
Yeah.
Moksha back in the day, that's
Yeah.
how I started. And I was like, oh man, this feels good for my body. This is great. But then like as stuff was coming up in my life, I was like, wait a minute, this yoga is actually making me like feel really good in my mind and my heart, and like it's helping me heal some stuff. So it was from those early stages that I was like, okay, like I want to take this a bit more seriously than just showing up and rolling out some hot yoga poses. Like,
Yeah.
so I made an adventure trip, like a soul experience to sell most of my stuff, get rid of my place, pack my car with just my dog at the time, and drive out west to Vancouver, where I think I always call it like the rest is history because the yoga out there is like the realest yoga there is. I don't know. But like I shouldn't say that because like I'm sure if you go to India and all these places where it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
born, like
But
obviously that's the
well,
realest. But
Vancouver's
on the
got a thing.
Western,
Yeah.
honestly, on the Western side of things, like you get a lot of great teachings, a lot of great teachers from all over that will come to this space. So I was very grateful to interact with all of the trainings that I got to do, all of the teachers I got to meet, and then have just taken it from there. So
Right.
traveled to my back home in Ontario, that's Kitchener-Waterloo. Did a lot of teachings there from what I learned from Vancouver. And then I met my partner at the time in Waterloo. Actually, he's from the Maritimes. He was moving back home. And because I'm this gypsy soul, I was like, okay, let's go. But at least I could take my teachings with me. So that's where I live now. This is what I've been doing along with cold plunges. So it's been a great experience.
Oh yeah, and it's something that I like deeply appreciate about when I found your profile many years ago, or when I got
Mhm.
connected with you, was just that, you had a real deep honoring for, the practices and the teachings
Yeah.
and the literature and like the
Yeah.
sutras and things like that, and you were like all encompassing about the practice. And so like
Hmm.
when you started practicing at Moksha at the
Yeah.
time, did you approach it from like a physical kind of standpoint, and then eventually it started to unravel as it does
Yes.
sometimes in yoga? Because I feel like even for myself it was very physical, but
Yeah.
then I would be sitting in these classes and I was like, I think that there's something more to this,
Yes.
like you would
And
just
that
have
was
this.
my exact
Right,
experience too.
right.
Like, and there was obviously a lot of people have you're lying there and you're like, why am I crying right now? Like,
Yeah,
I only just moved my body. Like,
yeah,
there's something moving
right, right.
inside.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's exactly my journey too. Like, I didn't come out with sutras and was like, oh, I want to learn more about these sutras on the mat. Like, you probably wouldn't experience it much, especially back then. I think now more so, which I really appreciate, there is more awareness about some of these ancient texts that are involved, or more about, oh, yoga can be more than poses and breath work. Like, people want to learn more, and with the accessibility of social media and the internet, like where there's ways to bring it to the forefront.
Hmm.
So definitely for sure, my practice was physical, and then it was very healing inside from the poses and maybe like introduction to breath work, but not necessarily like deep breath work.
Yeah.
And as I explained, like it wasn't until I got to Vancouver, my first training was, I don't, do you remember karma teachers?
That's where I did my training. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember it.
Okay, so that was in 2017. I did my
Okay.
training with Karma Teachers, and the
Okay.
main teacher at the time was Kevin Nadu. And
Oh,
shout out
nice.
to,
Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
to
Yeah.
Kevin. And he, like, I find yoga teacher trainings, they're all, especially the 200 hours, depending on what studio you go to, which is like no hate or like
Yeah.
wrong
Yeah.
against it, however they want to operate. But like you get a different what's the word, like trying to like curriculum for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can be different at so many different studios or trainings that you go to. So with Karma Teachers, I found it was very, at least with Kevin Nadu, it was a very spiritual based practice and
Mhm.
teachings. And then they brought in guest teachers along the way. So you got to experience like so much of yoga that I like in there. I was like, whoa, this is a lot. And there was a lot of like stuff I let go of in that training. And because it's only 200 hours, I was like, no, I need to keep learning. Like
You need more.
there's
Yeah.
there's more to this. Like,
Yeah.
and not to say like that could have been enough. I could have started teaching, like I'm sure I could have, but like I just knew there was more. And that's where I started to get into like more teachings and learnings. And through each teacher I met along the way, I was like, okay, okay, okay. And then you find what you really resonate with, right? Like
Yeah.
so it was when I did trainings with One Yoga and all the teachers there. Their background is a lot in the Yoga Sutras, or at least more of the philosophy side, the text of yoga. So it was with them that I'm like, okay, Yoga Sutras, okay. And yeah, like from there, then it's just like I've always wanted to then share it in an accessible way. So like for me, when I started doing my teacher training, I'm like, I want yoga to be accessible. I don't want it to money to be a barrier. I don't want your body to be a barrier.
Mm.
And I don't know all the poses. I'm not saying I'm an expert here, but I want to make it accessible for people in either way. But then same with the sutras. Once I found the sutras and then found out how many translations, I keep pointing here because this is my bookshelf.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the
I can see,
top
and I
one
feel like I don't even know what they are, but I know that they're all yogic
that
related. I
top
feel like I could
shelf,
just
and
tell.
there could be more. This whole thing could be Yoga Sutras, but that top shelf is just Yoga Sutras because there's so many
Wow. Yeah.
translations.
Yeah.
And that's what I was like, okay, so this is why maybe some people fall into like a bit of like a not it's not for me because of
Hmm.
the translation they might be reading. So I was like, okay, let's make this accessible now. So then when I started picking up the translations and reading them, I would find a similar thread, which I love the sutra. I would
The
find
thread. Yeah. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
similar thread and find the truth into what that sutra actually might mean or what it might be more accessible for people. So then I went through a phase on social media where I would share once a week, I would share a sutra, make it accessible. And at the time, I was like a deep hip hop head. I was a hip hop head my whole life. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a hip hop head right now. Like,
No way. Yeah,
if
because like
anyone
like I
asked me like to
messaged you,
name
of course.
a new artist, I'd be like, I don't
Right, 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 right. Yeah, well, I think that there's a wonderfulness to 90s hip hop, obviously.
right?
Like
Like
a
I'll
lot
still
of
be 90s all the way, but that kind
yeah,
of ended there. Like that's my ship.
right.
So I
Right.
would apply it actually to hip hop music and that was my way to make it like relatable and accessible because I think there is such a culture to hip hop outside of the music
Mhm.
and there was a lot of the sutras that I could see relatable to that of just keeping it real.
Right, right. And yeah, like this is what I'm saying too. Like when I reached out to you,
Mhm.
and of course, like when I found your profile, you had already kind of finished that series of
Yeah,
shares. Like it wasn't
yeah.
really like super active by the time I
No, no,
connected with
no.
you.
Yeah.
But when I scrolled down through your shares and your teachings and
Mhm.
whatever, I saw that there was this like, yeah, this big pull from hip hop and
Yeah.
the culture and lyricism and things like that.
Yeah.
And like from a person who loves hip hop as well. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I was like, this is so not only so cool. I was like, she's so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
but but I was also like, okay, like for me, I've read a lot about the sutras as well, and like
Yeah.
I've led some teachings as well and
Yeah.
workshops and what have you, you know.
Yeah.
And something about the sutras that I really like is that, today I could read one and it's going to have
Yeah.
some sort of, I'm going to have some understanding of like what that might mean to me today. But I
Yeah.
can read the same one 10 years from now and it might bring up a whole different
Oh,
teaching, you know?
so
And
true.
so I can see sometimes where I can like pull, parts of life and parts of stories that I've lived or whatever from
Yeah.
certain sutras. But
Yeah.
never have I connected the words of hip hop. And I was like, man, and you got me thinking in like a whole new way, you know?
Yeah.
Like I know it's like all yoga for sure, like it's all yoga,
Right.
whatever. But I was like,
Right.
man, like she's really got me like switching my mind frame towards this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Mm-hmm.
would like love to hear about how that kind of came to be and how you were able to like, I don't know, like decode some of these words and like attach them to the sutras.
And you know what? Like, man, I'd have to like go back to that younger self then, which wasn't it that long ago, maybe like 5 years or
Yeah.
something. But like, there was no Chat GPT, there
Yeah.
was no Grok. Like,
Yeah.
I think if it was, it obviously wouldn't have the soul or like some of the essence that I brought to my teachings as well. But like, I honestly like, I just love to study and learn. So, which translation did I start with? Can I pull some out?
Yeah, I was gonna say we can,
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to, yeah, for
One
sure.
sec.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I don't have, you know what I tried to
That was good.
do?
Yeah, yeah.
My baby when he used to like when I thought I cuz side note here, this doesn't have to be on the record, but I didn't want to do the cry it out sleep training stuff. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, you're gonna sit in your crib and I'm gonna read to you. So I'm like, I know what I'm gonna read. Let's just read the Yoga Sutras.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
it's still in his room there. But you know the blue copy by I'm gonna butcher the name
Oh,
Satchinanda.
yeah, 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 yeah.
That one was the first one I started with because I loved how it was a bit more relatable. Like sometimes
Mhm.
the sutras, when they're translated, it's like, I don't know what the hell that is even about.
Yeah. Yes.
So I had that one, and then I came across Living the Sutras. This one's a very easy read, but it's
Hmm.
with Kelly DiNardo and who's the other one? Amy Pierce Hayden. So, anyways, these two they really got me inspired to really start just applying it to my life.
Hmm.
And because I was a hip hop head and loved hip hop music so much, I was like, okay, that's how it means in my life. And I'm listening to this song. I'm like, wait, this artist is talking about the same thing right now. Or I'm watching an interview because I would watch interviews all the time with hip hop artists with a new album coming out or whatever. Or sometimes like going in the digging through the crates and like listening to an old Tupac interview or something. And I would just be like, while I'm listening to the hip hop, not even reading the sutras. Like I'm just listening to the interview or the music, and I'm like, that's a sutra. Like every time I'd be like, oh my God, that's a sutra. That's a sutra. That's a sutra. So then I would start writing it out. And it's funny that we have this interview today because I'm in the process of moving and
Okay.
I'm like going through all stuff, doing a pride graha, like getting rid of things I don't want to hold on to anymore. And I came across like all my journals. Like I don't know if you went into that journey
Oh, I
through
have them
whatever,
right here. I have
right?
them
Like you're
for
just
some reason.
writing and
Yeah,
like I would
I
write
can't
out a
get
lot
rid
of
of
my
them.
sequences at the time because I was such a nervous
Yes.
teacher at the beginning.
Yes.
And so I'm going through these books. I'm like, I ain't looking back at this sequence. Like, why am I keeping this anymore? So I started ditching some of them, but then I was opening up the ones where I was studying the sutras, like, and then I would see how I compared it to the hip hop. So it's funny that this interview is happening, and I just came across it. I wasn't looking for these books. It just happened
Yeah.
so that I'm moving and
Yeah.
they're coming up. So that's honestly how it was. Is I would be listening or going through the hip hop first, and then remember reading a sutra and be like, there's the connection right there. So
Yeah.
why not
Yeah.
let's share this with more people that maybe relate to it? And like I don't want to discredit, like there are obviously people that are studied in this, like this is their PhD and stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
not trying to
Yeah.
discount what they do. And a lot of people will say, like, oh, this translation is the only way. when you're interpreting your own way, you're kind of taking away the truth from that. But it's just
Oh,
like
interesting.
that's not my goal. All I'm trying to do is just really make it accessible for people
Yeah.
or for those that can relate it to their lives or to music. Like that might help them read them or
Well,
apply them in their life, right?
yes, and I feel like, some people have this misconception about hip hop that it's like a violent genre,
Hmm.
whatever. And I'm like, no, but it's not. It's not a violent genre. Yes, it can have those aspects, but any
Yeah.
genre can go any way. It doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. And
Yeah.
so that's a big aspect too, where it's like, well, no, these texts are talking about, like peace and like overall like
Yeah.
well-being for us
Yeah.
individually and as a collective. And
Yeah.
I'm able to pull from this violent music something
Yeah.
that also reflects that peaceful statement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. One of the projects that we did. So did you do a training with One Yoga at all?
So no, I haven't done any trainings with them. I did like a few things through Karma Teachers before it kind
Okay.
of transitioned out of being
Yes,
a
into
teacher
its own
to like
thing.
whatever, and then I've done some like other random things, but I have yet to do one with one yoga.
Okay, highly recommend it.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
so at the end of the training, and again, like I'm obviously at this time, and I still am. Like I love that we had that conversation at the beginning, like before this was recording, that like we can still get those nerves pop up in interviews or even before teaching a class. And no matter how many years you've been teaching for, it's like that little butterfly will be there. Um, where was I going with this? Um,
Trainings with one
yeah,
yoga.
so my trainings were still in my early days of teaching and my early days of learning and all that. And whenever this was online, because it was COVID times, so our online training at the end of it, we had to, or towards the end, we had to like do one share. And that's all they said. They said just share. Because I think it was just about getting comfortable in your voice, talking, like being comfortable speaking to people. If it was in person, it would obviously be like a bit more like there'd be more soul there. But through the screen, there still is like a bit of like tongue tie.
Yeah.
So they're like just share anything, and they didn't have rules. They're like just share whatever you want to share. So I was like sitting and thinking about it. I'm like, okay, well, like I don't know. I had a cool story about like my first training and learning about Ganesha, and I was like, da, da, da. But I'm like, oh, that's not really like part of my big practice though. Like it was just a portion of what I learned and how I applied it to my life at the time. But I'm like, I don't know, man. Like maybe I want to share about hip hop because like that's just my life. And it's how like it's hip hop's just been such a big part of my life since I was little. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna share a little hip hop class, like a little talk on hip hop. But then so I was like, okay, what do I want to do? So I was like, wait a minute, let's do Wu-Tang. And so I
Yeah.
pulled out
Yeah.
I pulled up the 36 chamber album, like, okay, let's think about this and do something here. And then what I did, because I my background actually before yoga, I was a videographer, photographer, and editor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I made lots of great connections in the yoga community in that way too,
For sure.
having that experience. But yeah, so for my project, I was like, okay, I'm gonna talk about Wu-Tang. I'm gonna talk about this album. And then I went through interviews of Wu-Tang, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I can make a whole thing on the yamas and niyamas right here, just taking little clips out. So I made a video presentation of why Wu-Tang is yoga, like, and relaying it or matching it to the yamas and niyamas. So I would have these little interviews along the way. And I remember like people that were watching that were hip hop heads, like in the room, like through the screen, they're just like, this is fucking awesome. Like I can't believe this girl is doing this right now. Like I unfortunately I was like I think sync the day that some other people were present doing their presentations. So mine was like one of the last days. So I had no idea what else anyone else did, but I'm sure it wasn't like listening to the Wu Tang album because I gave them a warning. I'm like, I'm sorry, but there will be a lot of F words maybe on this album. But it was good. And I think that's actually where it all began was like doing that project for my teacher training and seeing how, okay, these guys just talked about the yamas and niyamas because that's a big thing that you do in yoga teacher trainings
Mhm.
anyways. Like a lot of times you will learn that whatever training that you're in, but it's from the sutras. So then that's where it kind of all started to unfold.
Right. And do you find like in your study of, kind of pulling in from hip hop, as a culture and as a music, and then
Mhm.
be kind of weaving it in with yoga. Did you find that there was, certain artists that you just had more moments where you're like, whoa, whoa, like, because like to me, I would think like, yes, Wu-Tang would probably have a lot because they do
Yeah.
talk about a lot of these principles and like
Yeah.
universal laws.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Definitely there's more artists than some, but I still wanted to, because like what you mentioned, it's like not yoga, hip hop can have, for outsiders, it can look very violent or they're not
Mhm.
saying much, but like even with like artists at that time that you wouldn't think would be saying much, like there still is
Yeah,
something that they're sharing in that song that is very truth of Satya. So I wouldn't just like, obviously it's easy to go to Wu-Tang and Tupac and more of the like real artists, the conscious rappers. Like J. Cole was another one of my favorite ones at the
yeah,
time. Kendrick
yeah.
Lamar,
Always good.
Nas is a good one. Like
Yeah,
there's so many. Like I'm not gonna
yeah. Did you listen to KRS-One as well?
not too much
Wow, I'm surprised because he
actually.
has a lot of that too. Maybe dig a little
I
bit
know
now.
now,
He's like,
now it's
yeah,
gonna all come out and be like, okay, we're back to the sutras,
he's a
guys.
hip
Social
hop head.
media.
Yeah.
On Instagram, check me out.
Right, right.
No, and that's the thing though. Like you could just keep deep diving. But what I did want to do too is bring up some artists that you wouldn't expect. So like Nipsey Hussle too had some really good stuff that I found relatable. Um, Drake, surprisingly at the time, had some things. Like it was just about hearing a song and relating it. So
Right.
it was just always there in front of me whenever I heard it.
Right. Okay. And then you kind of stopped making that content, I guess. And then is
Yeah.
that like when I don't know, is that when like cold plunging started to happen for you or what was
I
the
Yeah, honestly, I think it was
Okay.
just around that time too. I was also getting more into the third and fourth chapter, which is just like those when you're getting to that point in the sutras, it's like, okay, you've done the first two chapters, it's more about like this is what happens, this is the process how to do it. So the practice of it all. But
Mm-hmm.
then they're like, and these are the cities that you'll get from it. These are the experiences you have. And like I couldn't I felt like I couldn't relate that if I didn't know how to feel that for myself or I've gone through it or like found some way to talk about it. Like I was just like I started doing chapter 3 of the sutras and I was just like like I can, if I read enough I can do it, but I heard a great example my partner shared with me. He's like, and this came from his teacher. He said, "Do you know the he said, you know the words, but do you know the meaning behind the words?" And I
Mm-hmm.
was getting caught up there. I was like, okay, I know the words because I'm studying and I'm reading and I'm going through all these translations, but I can't really know the meaning behind it. So I can talk about it, but I don't have the real full meaning in my own self. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is getting sticky. I don't feel like this is real for me anymore. So that's where I started to kind of be like, ah. And then at that time too, I believe cold plunges was starting to come into my life.
Mm-hmm.
And what's a cool kind of transition then is because I've had all those studies so deeply with the sutras and going through each one each week and learning about them. Like I was knowing the meaning behind the words at the time. And when I got to cold plunges, I was like, whoa, this is it right here. Like it was just like that's that sutra. Like I'm feeling it in my body right now in this water, or this is the experience when I'm out of the water with this. Like I was just like, and I haven't gone into like that would be, I think, a cool thing, but like it's interesting because the cold water therapy community, like it's not so many that come from a yoga background. So to then be like, listen to me talk about the Yoga Sutras, they're like, what sutra? What? Like, what is she talking?
Yeah.
What's she
You had
on
more
right now?
success with the hip hop people, like somehow,
Yeah. So I was just like maybe one day it will come out, but like it's honestly it's been such a beautiful blend in my practice of
Yeah.
using sutras, yoga, and cold plunges to kind of experience what they're saying.
And are you saying that like when you started cold plunging is when like chapter 3 started to make more sense to you? Is that
No, still
you're
chapter
still
three and
not?
four don't make sense to me,
Yeah.
I'll be
Well,
honest.
and like it's such a good reminder that we can't fast track like
No,
that book, you know, like
no, you
there's many
can't.
books that you can, you know, like I could
Yeah,
read a book about trees today and I could
yeah,
totally pound through it right now
yeah,
all day and I could have this great newfound understanding. But
yeah.
one time I was leading like a Zoom, it was like a 4 week sutra study that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And even yeah, for myself, I think we kind of started to get into chapter 2, and then like same thing. Like, like when 3 came up, I like said to them, I was like, I'm not going to be able to help you with this. Like,
Yeah,
like
like,
it just
and the
becomes
things
really complex.
it does. And the thing is like in yoga teacher trainings, they don't really go into them. And some of the translations, they'll even say like, we're just going to give you some of the sutras, but not all of them, because I think even for authors, it's sometimes hard to go into that depth.
Yeah,
So why not just kind of leave it to the unknown for now, or when that mystery unravels itself for us, then maybe we can speak to it. So I'm glad that you recognize that in yourself too, because it's like I think that's what makes teachers like good teachers, is when they can be honest to say this is a bit out of my realm. I
yeah,
can't lead you further.
yeah,
Like we can only lead people so far, right? If they want to continue it and they want to go and study it, and maybe they'll get the experience and share it
yeah,
back to us so we
yeah.
become their student.
Better.
Like I think
Yeah,
that's the beautiful thing. At least we led them to that direction, right?
yeah, totally,
But
totally.
you
And
got
I
to be
feel like
honest with yourself.
yeah, you do, you know, and I've said that a couple times in different shares that I've had of just knowing that I'm in the company of a great teacher is like one that tells me that I don't need them and
Yeah.
that like that they'll say I don't have the capacity, whether
Yes.
that's saying this is out of my wheelhouse, I don't understand it
Totally.
myself, I cannot teach it to you, or even knowing when you're going through some part of your life where even offering your class is just not you know, like I've seen a lot of people operate from like this empty cup place and
Mm-hmm.
they like
Mm-hmm.
continue teaching. And I'm like, well, maybe you just don't have that. Like
Yeah.
we were taught a lot of the time, like my teacher is like Peter Elmis, right? And so
Oh,
he
wow.
would
Yeah.
teach us that like we should and well not should, but we can teach from this place of you know, like teach from our hardship. Like if we're going
Yeah.
through a tough time, show up
Yep.
still and teach that class and teach from that
Yeah.
place. And that's
Yeah.
been extremely helpful. I totally have done
Yeah.
that many times and just like brought that in. I'm like, well, here's where we're at and this is where
Yeah.
we're going from. But then there's also times where you're like maxed because life is
Yeah.
just like it's like too much. Like so many
Yeah.
hardships have happened and you're like going through grief
Mm-hmm.
and you're like I can't like I can't
Mm-hmm.
you know and so there's like
Mm-hmm.
this balance of like knowing
Knowing.
when like when your role as a teacher and like what
Yeah.
you can give
Yeah.
is like at its max.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of I've learned, obviously I've learned a lot like since becoming a mother, that it's like
Mhm.
there are times where I'm like, I can't show up for anyone else today.
Yeah,
I have to show up for myself because I poured myself into my baby today,
yeah.
and I can't I there's nothing else I can give from me today. So I'm working with two great studios right
Hmm.
now here in Moncton, and the teachers on there are they're out to help and sub anytime, and I'm so grateful to have that space, because there's some studios that like no one subbing no one, and you're like, great,
Yeah,
I'm on my own right
yeah.
now. I'm drowning and no one's here to save me.
It's like show up like
Yeah, but there's two studios that I teach at. They both have a lot of great subs that
yeah,
will come in and help out. And I never have that problem to be like, to admit it, that I'm like, I don't have it in me today. Like, and I don't have to say
yeah,
it. Like, that's
yeah.
the other thing. It's like sometimes, yeah, we should explain, like, hey, I got a headache. Can anyone sub? But other
Hmm.
times it's just like, I need a sub today,
Got it.
period.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because
That's
I
it.
can't, I know in myself, and it's funny because like afterward, like once I sub it out, and then that then my class goes by, and I'm at home on my couch, I'm like, oh, I probably could have done it, but like I'm like, no, you couldn't have. Like you're at your limit,
Yeah,
Cambria. Like you
right.
gotta take rest. You gotta kick your feet up and
Yes,
just
yes.
chill.
And I
So
think you're still in your first year of motherhood. Is that correct?
yeah, he's 14 months. Yeah,
Okay. Okay. So also
and
just passed.
yeah, just a little after. But it's just like everything is a new milestone, or like the newborn years, it's like it's just it hits you like what? Like this is completely out of what my usual schedule is. So you get used to it, but I was nursing at the time too, so that's like a lot of energy that you're giving out.
Hmm.
Um, but now it's just chasing him and like
Yeah, yeah,
hearing
yeah,
him scream all the time. And like there's
yeah.
always something new, which I love. Like it keeps you on your toes.
Of
There could be
course.
a whole sutra and friggin' thing about that
Babies.
motherhood, parenthood, and babies and all that. That's the beauty about the Yoga Sutras, right? It's like I'm sure if anyone is interested, has any kind of hobby or deep interest that lights up their soul, like you could probably relate it to some form of those sutras. So yeah, it's kind of cool that
It
way.
is cool, and like, are you finding that in your, transition into this new role in life, which it's like a big
Yeah,
role to step
yeah,
into. It's like one of the biggest transitions we will ever go through as people,
yeah, yeah.
that I don't know that there's like challenge that you didn't expect or like that your that your practice is like showing up in a way that you're like, I thought that I had worked through challenge before in my life, but with the practices, but now I'm like working through them in a completely different way. And I actually really desperately need these practices to like stay
That that
sane.
is it. That is it. That's honestly that's my life right
Right.
now. And
Right.
like, and I love Ram Dass. I believe it was Ram Dass, and he said like, you think you're healed or you think you're all spiritually
Yes.
grown, but wait till you go home and go home for a week with your family and see how like grown you are. Like, it all comes out in parenthood. It all comes out in raising a child. Like you're just like, whew. And those poses, like I feel like the poses are good because you do need that movement for your body. Anytime I get a chance to move my body, like
Hmm.
it feels good. Especially when I was doing a lot of nursing, I was starting to hold my round through my spine because of the way that I would be holding my baby a lot. So I needed those practices to like open up again and move my spine. So the poses are good, but honestly, it's like it's the deeper stuff that you're like, this is what
Yeah.
I really need from my yoga right now. Like I need to meditate. I need to breath work it out. Like I need more than just the poses.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that when you become a mother, it like works you internally in like a whole new way,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have that now for like the rest of your life. Where you're like,
Yeah.
wow, I'm being faced with this, these
Yeah.
difficult decisions or this like
Yeah.
complicated thing or like knowing how to do it. Like you don't know how to do it. You just have
You
to figure out
don't.
how to do it. But you're like,
You
well, I don't
don't.
really know. Like I want to be a good mother, but like who's to say
Yeah.
I'm going to be? Like,
Yeah, yeah. And my partner and I, like, we started later. This is our only child. I'm not going to say we started because this is our child, and we're both content with our one beautiful child that we have. But like, I had him when I was 38, and he was 40, 42 at the time. So it's like we started later, and like you would think too, like, oh yeah, we've gone through like some people are having kids when they're very young, and they get thrown in this situation, which is just like now that I'm in it, I'm like, I can't believe like a 16-year-old would be having to go through this because like
yeah,
it's so challenging.
yeah,
Or sometimes people that are completely on their own doing it. So to be at an older age and raising a child, it is still just like, whoa, I don't feel ready. There's a lot I need to learn. There's a lot I need to do. But like at least we've gone through a lot of life that we maybe have more patience or understanding or like whatever's showing up however we're showing up that day, we can understand why we're doing it that way. It's like there's a better reflection of like, oh, I'm feeling at my limit or I'm feeling like a bit like flustered or overwhelmed, but it's like, no, I'm overwhelmed because like he was screaming at night and continued in the morning. So it's like I don't have to blow up and like take
yeah.
this further than what it needs to be. Like it's just a situation right now and it will pass. So
Mhm.
I feel like the patience key has definitely come into play, like being a parent at an older age for sure, like having
Yeah.
a young one.
Right. And like having this deeper self-awareness just
Hmm.
through all the work that we've done. It's just like, yes,
Yeah.
you have this
Hmm.
awareness of the situation. Like you can kind of
Hmm.
like logically break down the
Yeah.
screaming, the not sleeping, the
Yeah.
difficulty, whatever. And then you can
Yeah.
kind of break down your own psychology of just
Yeah.
what you're moving through as a
Yeah.
as a person, right?
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that my partner he's on a very similar path. He's just gone a different route other than yoga, so doing more of like energy healing through like Chinese medicine
Right.
and deep spiritual practices. So it's nice to be on that path with someone on that similar path with you. Like okay, we both can see why we're acting this way, or we're both wanting to raise the child in this same way. So it's nice to have that support as well too, for sure.
Of course, of course. I'm
Yeah.
happy that you have it. You know, it's like
Yeah.
well needed. And I've thought a lot about those individuals that just are on their own or very,
Yeah, I
very
can
young. And
imagine.
I don't, yeah, I'm like, I'm so grateful that that did not happen to me or that I
Yeah.
didn't have to go through
Yeah.
that because, yeah, I don't even know. Like, I feel like your brain isn't even fully developed to
Right.
even understand like what you're
Right.
doing. Like,
Yeah,
you know, I
totally.
still
I
don't feel it
can't.
developed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't either. I have
Yeah.
one.
Oh, okay. Let's come back to the cold plunging because this is such a
Yeah.
big aspect now, and I feel like it's like
Hmm.
obviously what I've actively seen from
Yes.
you, you know,
Yeah.
in our time being connected to one another, you know. And so,
Yeah.
you know, you started to, yeah, you kind of like found this cold plunging, and like,
Mhm.
what was the first one you went on? Like, what was it?
So I must share because like I always get the question. So my first actual like experience with cold water was out in Vancouver and New Year's Day they do the big polar plunge.
Okay.
And I remember my first time that I did it there, it was only the last time because I didn't stay in Vancouver much longer after that. But I tried it and it was like it felt like the whole city came out to the beach. I don't know if you've ever done it there. But
No.
it felt like the whole city was out there and everyone just runs in and out and there's so much excitement. And I was quite hesitant. Like I was just like taking my friend there because he wanted to do it at the time. And I was like, I don't want to. But there was a mindset because I brought my clothes and my towel, even though I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm resistant. But like for some reason, I had my bag. Anyways, I did end up doing it. And when I got out, people were cheering because I could see how resistant I was to doing it. And I was like, oh, wait, that kind of felt good. And it wasn't until I moved back home to Ontario and I had a few friends that were involved with a community called Stay Unbounded, based in Toronto, doing cold plunge therapy experiences. So,
So like
um,
more tubs like than
more
outside.
tubs or
Okay.
intentional going out to the lake with a group of people,
Mhm.
which I've never seen before. Like I saw the whole city do the polar plunge, but I never saw people like in a group stay in the water, come out together.
Okay.
So the first time actually, like in my real experience of cold water therapy, I went to a retreat with Stay Unbounded, and my friend was going to lead cold plunges, and he invited me to lead just some yoga, like before they went into the water, so just to get their body warmed up, some breathing going, so they're like feeling good about their
Mhm.
plunge. So I was just there for the yoga. And at that time, again, I was still super resistant. I'm like, there's no way you can even stay in that water. Like I ran in and out and that was enough. So how can people do this? So
Yeah.
it was really quite interesting because I led the yoga and I was like, okay, well, I'm here. I might as well try going into the lake with them. This is in Niagara Lake or Niagara region. And so they went in the water, and this was in June, okay? So it's not like winter where it's
Right.
freezing, but the water was still cold
Still
enough.
cold, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was probably like around 15 degrees Celsius. So I went out into the water, I got up to like my shin or my knees, and I was like, oh, this is cold. I can't do it. I'm out. Like, I can't stay in. And they stayed in for their time and they all eventually came out. But then they had a second plunge after that, and it was in the ice bath that you see me do often. So they had their big tank filled with ice, and each one was doing it, and they were just like, they had all this great energy when they came out after. I was like, what is to this practice right now? Like, what is happening in that water? Like, I'm like, I can't figure this out. And I was still like, no, no, no. Like, I can't even go into that lake that's like 15 degrees. There's no way I can sit in that bucket of ice water. Like, there's
Yeah.
actual ice. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way.
Yeah.
So they're about to wrap up for the weekend and they're going to empty the tub. And they just asked me one last time. They're like, Cambria, are you sure you don't want to do it? Like you might regret it on your drive home.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's when I was starting to think about it. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'll give it a try. Cause I was talking to the coach, and she was saying, I asked her, I was like, is it okay if I just put my feet in or just go to my knees? And she's like, you do what you can. Like she was the best facilitator in that to like, just like a yoga teacher, like just approaching it that way. Like you do what you can, you listen to your body. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I feel comfortable with you leading me in that way. So I went inside. I remember crying because I was like, what am I doing right now? Am I actually going to sit in this bucket of water? And I can't believe I'm like signing up for this.
Well, and the tub is really
And
intimidating.
it's
Like, like I'm
intimidating.
used to cold plunge in the lake, and
Yeah.
that was significantly less intimidating. It was still
Yeah.
freezing,
Yeah.
but
But you
like the
have the
tub,
water, like
yeah,
it's
you got water and like
open.
you're in nature and you've kind of
Yeah.
walked to get there and you've
Yeah.
prepared yourself. And like the
Yeah.
tub, I've only done a tub once, and I'm like, I
Okay.
can't. Oh my
Yeah,
God,
the tubs, it's a whole experience.
more mental, I think.
It
Like,
is.
it's like,
Honestly, it's a mental. That's all it
right,
honest. That's
right,
exactly what it is.
yeah,
So yeah, I got changed, came back down, and I sat in, and I can send you a picture of it, or I even have the video too.
yeah,
So I went in, and I got to my knees, and then I kind of kneeled down, so it got up to probably to just about like above my waistline, which felt like enough. And
yeah.
she was there, like guiding me through my breath, reminding me that I'm okay, I'm doing great. And I stayed in. I was surprised. I stayed in for 2 minutes.
Wow.
When I got out, she like it was at a beautiful location, this retreat. It was like a cottage right next to the lake. So it was very quiet. No one else is really around. So she walked me down to the lake again and she's like, "Well, you can like sit here," because she could tell I was like going through a bit of a release after that plunge. So she said, "Okay, just sit by the lake. And when you're ready to come up, you can come up." I was like, "Okay." And I put my feet in the water in the lake, and the water felt warm. And I just cried because what I experienced in that moment was realizing, like, what have I believed, like, listened to my mind on that wasn't actually true because it was all relative. Like, when I first went into that lake, I was like, "This is freezing. I can't do it. I'm out." I do an actual like freeze colder temperature in the water, and then I go back into the lake, and the lake felt like a bath. And I was just like, but my first experience was I couldn't be in that lake.
Yeah.
So it made me kind of really check myself in my head of being like, what, where else have I blocked myself or have thought something was true to not actually be true? And it was just in that experience that I was like, this practice is, there's a lot to this practice that I need to uncover. Um, so it was from there that this group then they continue to lead. They do obviously more in the winter time. So I went out to more of their plunges on the lake and got to meet all the people that do it more regularly. And I saw the connection of very much like yoga, how we come together and we can help each other through and we walk each other home. So yeah, it's just it was and it still is like it's always unfolding in the water for me. And you do a lot with nature, like as you're sharing, and I see from your photo shoots all the time, like you love being out in nature. And when you connect with water again, like I feel like we're connecting back to that moment, maybe when we're in our mother's wombs, I don't know, but like
Yeah.
water holds so much truth that I'm unpacking all the time. Like every time I plunge, there's just something to it that
Yeah.
I learn about myself or learn about my soul or about people or about the world, or like you can there's so much you can take from the practice if you just get quiet enough.
Right, right. Yeah. And I find that, when I'm with the waters, there's a shift. Like I want to be
Yeah.
in the waters all the time in the summer, especially not so much in the winter
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair.
I
Fair.
used to like anymore,
Fair.
but I
Yeah.
find I feel that emotional pull and I like see the unraveling of just
Hmm.
whatever the stories are that I've told myself or the things I've
Hmm.
experienced, or even, yes, these like perceptions that had been shifted for you by
Yeah.
feeling like this lake water is warm all of a sudden,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
wasn't. And like
But it
now
is
you
the
have this
same temperature, exact same
same
temperature.
temperature and you're like, whoa, like where have my perceptions been incorrect? Or just like,
Yeah.
yes, where have I been blocking myself
Yeah.
before?
Yeah.
And I find that like water is one of those elements that really like has this, like I find all of them to be very powerful, but there's like
Hmm.
I mean, it sounds like kind of standard or like cliche, but water is like so, there's a depth. There's like
Yes.
there's like depth where you can just, it's like endless the way that like studying yoga is endless. It just
Yes.
keeps going and going and going. And like, I'm
Yep.
sure that every time now you get in the tub, like it's still, shifting things for you.
Still shifts every single time, and that's why I stay with it. It's like, how
Yeah.
can I not like but so now my practice obviously like for 5 years it's evolved into what it has. And in the midst of my 5 year practice, like in one of the years my father passed away, so I was dealing with grief. And I had a
Hmm.
strong cold plunge practice at that time, like right before he died. Um, so I was like, okay, to process this grief, I know exactly what I'm doing. Like I'm getting into that water. So I challenged myself to 100 days. I'm like, I'm going to do this for 100 days. A few other people in my community did it like
Yeah.
prior to. So I was like, I feel like I can do that. And that's going to give me purpose to get out of bed and to
Yeah.
get moving and to
Yeah.
just release. Like sometimes I want to cry about it, but to release what I need to release. Like grief shows up so differently for everyone. Our relationships we have with people, like my relationship with my father might be different from someone else's relationship to their father, but
Yeah.
grief is grief and it will show up differently in your body and how you carry yourself.
Hmm.
And it honestly, it helped me so much through that process of just showing up for myself 100 days, doing it and releasing it. Um, and it was in that process, I was like, you know what? This is very healing, and I want to share this with more people.
Yeah.
So I'm out in the west or the east coast now, so in Moncton, New Brunswick, and I was like, I want to bring a community here. Like I know there's people because cold plunging, like it has its seasons where it's popular and then it dies down, and it's popular and it dies down, and usually in the winter time with polar plunges and stuff, it's popular. But a few people were always talking about it with me, like, oh, I see or I've heard you've done cold plunges. Like, can we do them together? So I was like, you know what, we can start building a community. So it was through my 100-day challenge that I started to build East Coast Plunge. And now it's an offering where I have like a dedicated space with a studio that I teach at. And I guide people through an experience of like, including everything now. So yoga, breath work, cold plunges, and then we end with like a grounding meditation so we can integrate everything that we've gone through. Um,
Yeah.
and it just feels like it just feels so right along with my career, my path of teaching yoga, like offering now cold plunges to people feels amazing too, because some people come in, like what I love is the ones that will come in. Just my last workshop I offered, I had a woman come in, and again, she had all her stuff. She had her towel
You better go
and her
in.
bathing suit and everything, but she walked in the studio and she's like, is it okay if I just don't do the cold plunge part? I'm like, of course. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
never want to pressure anyone to do it, especially if they don't feel ready.
It's a big
Um,
thing, you know,
it's
and
a
like even
big
when I would go
thing.
in like back in the day, like I remember my first one and I was like, I
Yeah.
obviously went into a tiny little moment of shock and I forgot to breathe.
Yes.
And I was
Yes.
like, I'm not breathing. And I was like,
Yeah.
you know, like your heart
Yeah.
like feels like it stops when you go in. So like it's definitely not for everyone, you know,
No, and
but
that's
yeah, it's
my thing.
scary.
It's like I never want to convince everyone that it's like you must do this. This is the best thing
Yep.
ever because it's for
Yep.
some it actually isn't good
Yep.
for them.
I agree. Yep.
For some are very resistant to it. So I never want to push someone that's not ready for it. So she came in and she said, "Is it okay if I do the yoga and everything else of the workshop but not the cold plunge?" I said,
Mhm.
"Absolutely." But she shared with me, she's like, "But I brought my stuff." I was like, "Well, there's the mindset right there." So I'm
Yeah.
like, "We'll see how it unfolds." And in
Yeah.
my workshops too, I explain like, okay, this is how we're going to breathe. This is what to expect. And
Yeah.
you do what you can. We're going to try to stay in for 2 minutes, but you do what you can, listen to your body. So
Right.
she came in, we like do our yoga, we go to the cold plunge room and we do it in pairs. So I paired her up and she goes in and she's doing great because she comes out to a lot of the yoga classes. I see her a lot. So she's doing awesome with her breath work. And then she's like, Can I stay in? Can I stay in another minute? I'm like, Yeah, go ahead. Like, I'm just there coaching, making sure she's all right. She's like, Okay, another minute. She stayed in for 4 minutes, which
No
I'm just like,
way.
in my head, I was just like, this is incredible right here because you came in thinking that you weren't going to do it at all, and then you just crushed it and you went above and beyond. And there's a lot to like the timings and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I could get
Yeah.
into it later, but like I don't
Right.
want people to overstay they're welcome in the cold either.
Of
But like
course.
4 minutes was a perfect amount for this woman,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I was just so like she'll probably always remain in my head as like what a great experience because of how she came in to the studio and then what she ended up doing, and that's the
Yeah.
mindset right there. It's like
That's it. That's
we
it.
can't just always listen to our minds, and like the Yoga Sutras, like it shows us how we can
Yeah.
unpack that all.
Well, I think about like how the visible spectrum is actually quite small, you know, it's like we
Yeah,
only see so much. So there's like so many other
right.
things that our eyes, our specific human eyes do not pick up. We can't
Yeah,
see all those things that are existing. So
yeah.
there's more, you know, and
Yeah.
I do want to thank you for sharing about your father and
Mm,
I send you a lot of love around that because, you know,
mm,
like I lost my brother a couple years ago, and like
Hmm.
when you tell me this with this share in this story, like something that's come up for me in the grief process is that
Yeah.
a lot of like beauty and goodness has come out of it as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
And it's like a weird thing because you don't want to feel that sometimes you don't want to
Yeah.
feel that like there's goodness coming from that because it's like
Yeah.
so heartbreaking, it just
Yeah.
hurts so bad or it's so difficult to move through. But it
Yeah.
shifts also again your perceptions, or
Yeah.
now you have this beautiful thing with East Coast Plunge that came
Hmm.
from that like
Yeah.
dedication that you were able to
Yeah.
give to the 100 days.
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
it's like all
Exactly.
unraveled into like this wonderful gift that
Yeah.
like might not have really thought about unless you
Yeah.
moved that
Yeah.
grief.
Right. And like for some, and it's just how it shows up for people. Like
Yeah.
some, it's hard to get out of bed. Some rely on other things in life to get them through it. But this was my way to get through it, and it helped me like so much. So then also too, so then after that, I got East Coast Plunge going, and then I got pregnant, and for me personally, and it's a everyone's their own body. I'm never gonna put judgment on there, but
Yeah.
like for me, I was like, I'm not doing my cold plunge practice. There's no science because the practice that I follow, at least the protocols I follow, come from a researcher named Dr. Susanna Soberg, and that's what I like to follow is the research behind it or the science behind it of why we're doing this and why it should work. I think that's the better way to do it, especially with a newer wellness practice. Like there's I'm gonna say it right here, but there's like way too much out there that can like maybe be quite hurtful for people or damaging or whatever. And because it's popular on social media, like doesn't mean we should do it.
Hmm.
So that's why I always wanted to take this practice a bit more seriously. So because there was no research or science to show the benefit of the practice, and because of what I understand of what's happening to the body when you're in the cold water, that everything is kind of shutting down to keep your vital organs running. I was like, well, if it starts to shut out my blood flow to my baby, I ain't going there. Like, there's no
Yeah.
freaking point. I'll take 9 months off. I'll be back.
Hmm.
So I took the 9 months off, and then afterwards with nursing, there was just showing some effects of like what can happen. Like if I have a lot of cortisol, I don't want that to pass on to him too much. So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, take another little bit off too. Once I'm done nursing, then I'll get back to my practice. So it's now that I started getting back into my practice again. And so I was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'll do those 100 days again because I'm coming back to me, right? Like this is
Yeah.
how I need to show up. And I think it's an important thing for mothers and new mothers that it's like we still need to take time for ourselves. Like you, whatever you can carve out in your day, like we need to do that because there's a lot that we do outside of that time.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna dedicate those 2 minutes in the water to myself. Obviously, there's time before and after to like get it all prepared and to get warmed up again. But it feels good to just be like, this is my time of the day. I'm going to do it for myself to show up for myself and my baby and my family in a
Right.
better way. And afterwards, I always feel like so much more like I have so much more energy to like do the rest of the day with him. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I can't keep going and singing songs.
Yeah, like songs that are like you're like, I never thought I'd be
Yeah,
listening to this.
right. Like I'm used to singing some like invocations to Patanjali. Now I'm talking
Yeah.
about Baby Shark and
Right, right. Yeah, you're like, what is going on here? Like, this is
yeah.
not what I used to listen to. Who have
Right.
I
But
become?
now I'm loving it, honestly. Like
Yeah,
it does put me in like kind of like a mantra like
yeah,
state like kirtan where you're just singing things over and over. Like some of these songs are just like that because it's only a few words and it's just
yeah.
repeating it so the baby learns. And I'm
Right.
actually enjoying it. So like I can't even hate that much.
No, no,
But
and
but we need that
yeah,
reset. And
yes.
so the 100 days right now is my reset and it's feeling so great. And then what I wanted to do with this one is to just share all the tips that I have or like just offer like a reflection that I had the other day or something new that's coming up for me so that
Mhm.
like it's not just me in a tub every day like oh yeah there she goes again she's doing
Yes.
it.
Well, we're watching. We are
Yeah.
watching.
But it feels good to like just share and pass on the wisdom because sometimes like as well of information being accessible it also too can go in the way of like now pay me millions of dollars like
Always. Yeah.
that's causing that non-accessibility with it again. So
Yeah.
I've never wanted to do my stuff, my services that way. So this is my way to still offer to the community because it's nice when I see some of my students come in to do yoga, they'll see my water practice and they'll have questions about it, or they'll say like, "Oh, I saw your post," and they'll ask me about it. So it's like, okay, cool. Here, I can give you more information to help you.
Yes. Yeah, and I like really appreciating like this aspect of you like keeping your own identity after
Mhm.
becoming a mother, because I
Yeah.
think it's something that maybe our generation is doing a little bit maybe more of a conscious job of, but
Yeah.
maybe still
Yeah.
not always because I've met a lot
Hmm.
of mothers that their identity just becomes that. Like they just
Yeah.
are a mother, which is it's beautiful,
Yep.
whatever, but
Yep.
they like it becomes unhealthy for them and
Yeah.
they don't keep the aspects of themselves that used to exist before. They don't
Hmm.
stay on some sort of path for themselves, and they kind of
Yeah.
forget who they were before and what they were
Yep.
interested in. And I've talked to a lot of mothers about keeping their own identity and like remembering that there was like an aspect of them that loved to go
Yeah.
do these things that they
Yeah.
haven't now done for 10 years.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, well, where did that go? It's just like all
Yeah.
slips away. And I think it happens really easily
Hmm. Yeah.
to mothers, but to stay kind of rooted on some sort of path and like, yeah,
Yeah.
to remember who you are and like what
Yeah.
inspires you, what keeps you like showing up
Yeah.
and staying well as a
Yeah.
whole, like mind,
And
body,
that's it
soul.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Because for me, like the cold water therapy practice, like from that first experience that I shared with you with Stay Unbounded, it's like I had that clarity moment of like, wow, my mind, like where has it led me wrong or where have I blocked myself? So for me, honestly, like it's always been about the practice for me more so about like mental health and well-being internally and for my soul and for my meditation. Like I always share like the ice water for me is my meditation seat, like my sukhasana easy seat of
yeah,
like sitting in the water. And for some, it might be sitting in a quiet space with a candle or however meditation shows up for all different kinds of people. Like that's my meditation. So
mm,
it's always more so been like a deeper practice than just like a physical recovery, which is great. Like I think it's a great introduction, or that's exactly what some people need for their bodies, especially for athletes or people that are just working out a lot. It's great for that. But for me, it's always been on that side of things of mental health and well-being and just being able to practice that like discomfort and being okay in discomfort, right? Like I think our lives now, we're so used to comfort, right?
yeah,
Especially in warmth. Like it's the easy one of like, my car is heated, my seats are heated in my car. At
yeah,
night, I have my duvet, my house is warmed all up. Like we want to stay warm. And
yeah,
that's just one example of comfort. Like there's a lot of different areas in our lives where we're just working with comfort now. And then when we're faced with discomfort, we have a hard time facing it, right? And we want to run away from it, or we want to ignore it, or like turn to something else, like a substance or whatever, to not face that discomfort. So I find the cold plunge, and what I try to share with people too is like the cold plunge is a great way to practice discomfort in a setting that is quote unquote safe, but like in a setting that is controlled. So like
yeah,
there's a start and an end to this discomfort. How
hmm,
do you manage it for 2 minutes and know that when you get out, you did it? And then
yeah,
when you continue to do that, there's a lot of growth from that. Because then when
hmm,
the discomfort arises in life of like as simple as like, man, that woman cut me
anything,
off and blah, blah, blah,
yeah,
blah, like you don't
yeah.
respond the same way. Or when you're working and you're like, oh, I have these deadlines and I can't, blah, 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 blah. Like you're able to manage it way better. And I've had many people that go that route have shared like, yeah, the cold practice helps me in that way too.
Yeah, well, and like, bringing in our yogic breath and like
Yes.
bringing in this aspect of getting better with discomfort through the cold, like
Yeah.
it's such a powerful combination. I feel like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so grateful that I know these things or that I've
Yeah.
experienced these things to have them in my wheelhouse to like,
Yeah.
okay, I can work with
Yeah.
this. And like the same way you're saying, like there's many ways of comfort. Like I feel like I'm seeing it a lot too. Like there's like a fast pacedness to life. Like there's like
Yeah.
pre-made meals at the grocery store. I'm like,
Right.
why we gotta go so fast? Like, why
Why
don't we just
fast?
prepare the meal? Like, it's like
Right.
sometimes it's so totally helpful. I get it,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But like you see it and you're like, well, like why are we fast tracking our lives?
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
you're receiving packages the same day, the next day.
Yeah.
Like there's so much comfort.
Which
And like,
honestly, like, I don't know. Sometimes when I order something on Amazon, I'm like, how did it get here that fast though?
yeah,
Like,
how does that work? I know
like, I'm
it's
just
like
like,
a
it's so
conspiracy. Like they're, like those tunnels are real, dude. Like, it's like what is going on here, But there are all these areas of comfort. And like in the
yeah.
same way that the cold plunges can, bring this aspect of discomfort that is like, yes,
Mhm.
controlled discomfort. Like there's
Yeah.
also different ways that people can do that because I find
Yeah.
like a lot of people just want to have a shower. Like they'll just do the
Yeah.
cold shower. They don't
Yeah.
have to fully plunge themselves, or they might
Hmm.
do the like cold on their face or
Yeah.
something. So it's like, yes, it's
Yeah.
like doing this discomfort, but they're not having to like fully immerse themselves and like
Yeah.
going into the lake in,
Yeah.
mid-January, whatever.
Yeah. And I would
So,
never recommend, like, as much as like I don't ever push my services
mhm,
on people,
mhm,
especially with people that are resistant to it. It's
mhm,
like you can do this on your own, but I feel like if you do it with like the right facilitator or just with another person, like you will have a better experience than just seeing it online and be like, I'm gonna do that tomorrow, and then you try to do it and you get out because you just didn't have the proper set up for it, or the like knowing how to do it, and then you might not do it again. So it
mhm,
is good, like I would share to people, like it is good to like either find out a community in your area that are doing it. A great way is cold showers. If you are wanting to try it on your own, like cold shower is always there, it's accessible for everybody in most places. So you can always start there and then just see how you do, just turning it colder each week, or staying in the cold shower longer. And then if you're loving it, then it's like, okay, let me search out a community that does this, because it is quite popular now. That I know in Vancouver, there's many people that do it. In Toronto,
yeah.
Stay Unbounded, and another community is Thrive. And out here, I'm doing it in Halifax. There's a huge community out there, Coldplay.
Mhm.
Um, so I would always recommend to people, like, just do it with community, because you will have definitely a better experience, and then maybe more likely to do it again, or to start applying it like as a regular thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. And like my first time, I just went like in
Yeah.
the rushing part of the lake. There's like a
Yeah. Oh.
feeds into it, which is fine. Whatever. I just went alone, whatever. Like I knew
Yep.
I would be fine, but like
Yep.
because I knew that I had breath, but that doesn't
Yes.
mean anything because I still lost my breath as soon as I did it.
And
Like as soon as I got like down to like, I never put
yep.
my head under, but as soon as I got
No.
my shoulders in, I was like, whatever.
Yes.
Like I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this alone.
Yeah. So what I'll give one tip right now for whoever's watching or listening
Don't
to
do what I
this.
did.
Yeah, don't do it that way. But the thing is like, however, whatever body of water that you're going in, like, walk in with attention, set your intention, be confident with your feet, and then find a breath in. So you take a breath in,
Yeah.
and then when you're ready to sink, a deep breath out. And you slowly lower down to a level that's comfort for you. And I find that way, if you breathe slowly in, breathe out to lower, you can't really lose your breath, because your breath naturally would do the inhale.
Yeah.
And then you just have to remind yourself, deep breath out. If you go in fast, or you're doing anything where it's too fast, like we were just talking about, world is already too fast, and you need to slow down, just like
Mhm.
how we do in yoga. If you approach the water that way, you're gonna be like, like it's just naturally going to happen. And we do have kind of like shock points in our body. So in the ankles, knees, hips, chest, especially here, those parts light up again. So even if you go into your knees and then you sink lower to your hips, you'll get that feeling
Like,
again. So
yeah,
that's when you just
yeah,
have to remember to catch the breath. So when you get to
right.
there again, you take a breath in and then breathe out to the belly. Like, it's
Yeah,
all about the breath in that practice. And that's what you have to just keep reminding your mind to do, is send it down to the belly. But you got to go slow. Like,
right.
people, it's not the cold plunge. And I'm not saying this about your practice, because it still
Yeah,
sounded like you were doing it the right way.
yeah,
It's just
right.
for the people that are rushing into it. Like, you gotta approach the
Yeah.
water with attention and also
Well,
respect. Right?
yeah, major respect for the
Like, you gotta
water.
respect
Yeah,
nature. If
yeah.
you're doing it out in nature, like, I would say never, ever, ever, not to you. For anyone
Okay,
else that
I'm
wants
done now,
to,
so it's fine.
yeah. anyone that's like wanting to do this practice for the first time and they're like, I'm
Like
getting in
go
my
with
car tonight
someone.
and I'm going, you have to go with someone
Yeah.
because nature can just always do whatever it wants.
Yes.
We can't
Yeah.
disrespect nature.
No, we can't, especially the water. I feel like the water
Yeah.
is, it's like so beautiful
Yeah.
and nurturing and calm and
Yeah.
healing, and it's also
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
extremely
It
dangerous.
has some yang energy.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember at the time I was like talking to my mom about it, and
Yeah.
she was really nervous or worried, and I was like, no,
Hmm.
no, like I'm always gonna like make sure I can touch. That's the thing about
Yes.
the running
Yeah.
in. The
Yeah.
running in, I'm like, well, you're not really sure of like your footing or anything,
Yes.
you
Yeah. I
know?
never, we always, if I do it out with a group, like in nature,
Yeah,
we always go to where we can still like touch the ground.
yeah.
I don't like the feeling. I'm not a strong swimmer myself.
No, me
So
neither.
I don't like the feeling when I can't touch the ground. But then because the practice is bringing up so much discomfort, it's like the last thing you need to think about is like, am I going to float long enough or am I going to sink and die right now? So we
Yeah,
only usually go to our hips
yeah.
and then we'll take the breath in and then lower
Like
to
kind of like
whatever
lower
comfort you
down.
want. So then you're
Right.
kind of just like squatting in the water. Your feet are always still on that
Hmm.
solid ground.
Right, right. And I've like always seen you with a toque and I've always seen
Yeah,
you with gloves. And
yeah.
that I always wonder what's going on there. Because like for me, I was
So
like kind of immersing,
yeah,
I wasn't doing my head, obviously, whatever. And
yeah.
I wonder why your hands don't get involved, is my
Yeah,
own
so
curiosity.
there's no extra benefit if you think about the body mass that's in the water. Your
Hmm.
fingertips ain't gonna add like the extra 10% in, right? So the way to regulate your body temperature or to help your body regulate is to keep your hands above. If it's the
Okay.
winter time, to wear mittens because your body temperature is gonna stay normal in your hands, and that will just help to regulate everything else. Like it's not working so hard in your hands either, or a lot of like discomfort can arise in your hands when people put their hands in. So then
Mhm.
that's causing more discomfort in the body. So why not just take it like a little easy? There's no extra benefit. So just keep your hands above, wear mitts.
Okay.
And then it's the same thing with your head because your head will release a lot of heat.
Hmm.
So to help regulate that temperature and to keep your natural heat in, I love wearing my hat, especially in the winter time. I'll wear my hat.
Right.
The other
Okay.
key that like you may or may not see sometimes is I always wear neoprene socks. It's what the surfers would wear like when they're doing their
Somebody
cold water.
recommended that to me. Yeah,
Yes.
they said I should get those. Okay.
I would tell anyone who wants to get in this practice, I would say like try it like if you're like, I'm not sure I'm gonna do this, like do it once without the socks. And then if you're like, I love this practice, go order your socks the next day because the socks are a game changer. I tell everyone, and some people want to still bring their ego in it and be like, I don't need socks. Again, there's no extra benefit of putting your feet in. So, or like having your feet bare. So, neoprene socks, water shoes work too. I just find the neoprene socks are obviously thicker. So
Right.
they help to regulate that body temperature too. So I always
Okay.
have my neoprene socks every time I go and do a cold plunge, whether that's like in a studio, like the ones that I use for my workshops, when I
Hmm.
do it outside here, when I do it at the ocean. It's just I feel a lot of discomfort in my toes. Some people do feel that way too. And then it takes me out of the practice. Like instead of going into like a nice meditative state or just a relaxation state, I'm just focused too much on my toes. So I like why not just kind of help out my mind there and cover them up.
Right, yeah, that totally makes sense. And like when I started doing it, the reason I was doing it was because I have Raynaud's, and
Yes.
so somebody I read something, and my friend who was very, immersed in the cold plunge world at the time, she was
Yeah.
saying to me that a lot of people have, kind of cured whatever, cured
Yeah.
their thing for,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I thought, well, maybe actually I see the logic. Like if I go
Yeah.
into this much colder water, the air
Yeah.
will not feel as cold because I'm
Yes.
like training my body, whatever.
Yeah.
It did
Yeah.
not like work like that
No.
for me. I think it like made my life a little bit worse,
Oh
which is
no,
fine.
yeah. So definitely keep your hands
Hands
above and the
up.
neoprene socks.
Right.
I think that might be a good start. Like if it's
Yeah.
still there and it still is painful, I know with that, like it just won't ever really change. It goes either way for people, is what
Yes.
I've heard and what I've read. So
Yeah.
it's like it's good to maybe try the mitts and keeping your hands above and the
Right.
shoes. And if it's still causing that much pain, it's like, okay, maybe this
Yeah.
water temperature isn't right for me, or I can do my cold showers. Like there's so many different things you can then adjust from there, but
Totally.
it's starting with what you can use to help you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's when like whoever it was like recommended that I get those socks, and like I
Yeah.
never really thought about gloves, to be honest. I just
Yeah.
didn't really think about it, and like I did really appreciate doing it. I like looked forward to
Hmm.
doing it. It became this like routine for me.
Yeah.
That go to this place and do
Yeah.
this thing and like be alone and have to breathe and like
Yeah.
the good feeling afterwards when you get out of
Yes.
the water and your body's
Yeah.
like so warm and you're like, wow, I feel
Yeah.
it's
I
like
love it.
I love it, but I was like, maybe this just isn't for me
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of my circulation issues, whatever.
Yeah.
But like I'd be totally open to yeah, maybe trying again with
Trying the, yeah.
some of these things.
Yeah, try it out. And then if not, like maybe just stick into cold showers or the water temperature. Like that's else what I would share.
Mm.
Because the science that I follow with Dr. Susanna Soberg, she shares that it's like anything below 15 degrees Celsius or lower is fantastic and you'll get benefits from it. So it doesn't have to be like what you see on my social media. As
Yeah.
like sometimes I always try to remind people like it doesn't have to be an ice tub like full of ice.
Yeah.
The reason why mine is because it's winter and it's cold out here on the East Coast, so it just happens to be full with ice. And if I had the time, I'd probably shovel all that ice out, but I don't.
Yeah.
So, and I have the years of practice where I'm just like, okay, I know how to manage this. And some days, if I don't have it in me, I'll go for a shorter time. So there's different protocols that you can play with. So maybe what I would also recommend for you is to try a different water temperature, maybe like
Yeah.
depending, like was it in a dedicated tub?
No, I
Oh,
had
you
only
went to
gone
the
into a
water.
tub once. I like did a
Oh, okay.
tub in December on Gabriola and then
Okay.
which was I couldn't it was my first time and I like
Yeah.
was with my friend and I was like I can't do this. Like it was like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
almost. I was like I can't. She's like you just need to breathe and I was like I can't.
Yeah.
Like, I was
Yeah. No.
like I'm getting out. I'm getting
See, but that's where the facilitator comes in, what I was saying. Oh,
and then the next time was I went into the ocean, also on Gabriola, which was just so much better. It was just so much better. And then
yeah.
it was like, yeah, from there it just I only like went into the lake
Okay,
basically.
yeah. Yeah.
So
And that's it. It probably is a warmer temperature in the lake or the ocean than in one of those tubs.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
which
that's
yeah,
probably
like
why. The
much
one
more.
with the rushing water, though, the rushing, and I'll share this too for anyone that's in a tub that has circulating water. If you're out on like in the ocean, if it's like or the lake and it's really a lot of water flow, or like you were saying, it was like a rushing flow into the
Yeah,
like a
it's like
stream.
the moving part that like
Yeah,
leads into the
those
like
those plunges are extremely challenging because of the constant water flow. You're breaking the thermal layer. So around your body when you're in the water, and you'll see this sometimes, like myself included, you'll see images of people remaining completely still. We do that because we're building a thermal, well, the body is naturally building a thermal layer around us, so keeping our body warm. And there's like a thin layer, obviously, then of warmth, and then the ice or the cold water around you. Once you move your arms or once that water is continually rushing, it's very challenging, if impossible, I don't know, to build that thermal layer. So a
so
way for those people that are listening that want to like improve their practice without dropping the temperature lower or staying in for a ridiculous amount of time is to then play with like moving your arms around, because that will create a bit more of a challenge in the cold without having to do something more extreme. So in rushing water, like if you notice like, wow, this is really hard right now, it's because that rushing water is breaking your thermal layer.
okay. Yeah, I see I didn't even know that that
Yeah,
existed.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. See, there's a
So
lot to it. It's not just plunging in water, y'all.
no, not even close. And
Yeah.
and I messaged you the other day to say that
Mhm.
like what I said something along the lines of like what I'm loving about watching you do these 100 days. I think has it been 2 times that you've done the 100 days now?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
like my first one with the grief, and then this is my second round. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. And so
Yeah.
I said to you, I was like, what I'm loving watching you for like do this, whatever,
Yeah.
is that like it's really showing that it just never gets any easier.
And
Like
it
it
doesn't. And people that say that it does, it's like, I don't know. Like I have met people that have burnt out on it, and what that means is that they've stayed in the water, like they maybe started the practice without too much of the protocols of how to do it in a proper way or a lasting way. So they've burnt out their system. So they've stayed in the water way too long, maybe 10, 15 minutes or something. So they don't feel the same effects, or they've stayed in extremely cold temperatures and they don't feel the effects the same. So it might feel easy to them, but it's just because their whole friggin' system is burnt out on the cold. But for
no,
me, I've always stuck to this practice of staying in for 2 minutes, maybe three, like depending on the water, four max. Like that's it for me. But
yeah.
2 minutes regular is what I normally do. And my temperature is somewhere between 50. Like right now, it's zero because of the ice. I normally probably wouldn't do it this temperature all the time, but it's just what I'm dealing with, so it's what it is. But because of that protocol that I stick with, that it always is like, okay, yep, there's the cold again. Like I'm not used to this yet. Like I know how to breathe, I know how to manage it, but it's still like yesterday I sat in and I was just like, like, oh, this is freaking cold right now. And yet I did it the day before, same temperature, same like it's like, but
Yeah.
it's just your body is again in that discomfort. And how do we manage it? Oh yeah, breathe. And now I
Yeah.
can chill.
Right. And I'm sure you have a lot of moments where you're like, what the fuck am I
Oh
doing?
my
Like,
God. Like it comes
why
up
am I
and when
doing
I'm
this?
on day like, what is it, day 47?
Yeah, you're in the
And
40s. Yeah.
yeah, and like it was just like a couple days ago. I'm like, what am I doing? Like,
Right.
what am I
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
But
like
it's a
that,
good reflection. Like it's a
of
good thing that
course.
comes up, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think as soon as it gets sticky, that's like it's
Yeah,
like the yoga, man. Like as soon
yeah,
as you want to get out of the pose, Ryan says it all the time.
yeah.
As soon as you want to get out of the pose, like
That's when
that's
it
exactly when
begins.
yoga starts, you know? So you're like,
Yeah,
well, okay. Like,
yeah,
so it's like that.
exactly.
You have to like hit
And the
that head.
other thing I'll share about being on a challenge, and I've learned a lot
Yep.
from when yoga would do this, or Ryan Lear would say it every now and then in one of these challenges, because when yoga always offered, I think they still do 40-day
40
challenges.
days. Oh, yeah, yeah.
They would share that along the way, like even sometimes closer to that last week or last a bit of the 40 days, you'll be challenged by something that's like stopping you from committing to it and continue to go. And it showed up and it always shows up, but this year, and I was close to 40 days, which is awesome. I was just like hilarious because I'm doing 100, but like it was around the 40-day mark and my friggin' tub froze completely over because we had like just this one night where the temperature dropped ridiculous and I thought I would be okay just chopping it, and my whole fucking my whole tub
Yeah,
that's how I felt. My
yeah,
whole
yeah.
house turned to ice, and I was like, "Okay, here we go. We're gonna
Yeah,
chop it." And it just took forever. And because like I have mama duties, I can't just spend my day chopping ice. Like that's not fair to my child.
yeah.
So any little bit of time I had, I would come out, boil water, pour it in, chop it, and just work away at it after a week. And thankfully, I have my space at the studio I teach at, True Studio here in Moncton. So I was able to use their tub to like continue my practice, which I was just like, oh my gosh, thank you guys for having
Yeah,
this space here because I probably would have had to give up or could have done cold showers, but like I just love the plunges.
yeah,
So I chipped away and chipped away and chipped away for a week, and finally, like once I got to the bottom, I was like, oh, thank God. But along the chipping, like sometimes you ding the tub, right? And I'm like, oh my
okay.
God, if this
Yeah,
is like broken or starts leaking, what am I gonna do? So I pulled it out to my yard now. So it's on the grass. And I just was like, I don't know if this thing is gonna hold water anymore or leak, or if there's a hole I can't see.
yeah,
But I told him, and I just filled it and I put the lid on overnight. And I was like, I'll see you in the morning. Good luck, tub. Like,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
told my partner, I'm like, if it doesn't hold the water, I'm done. Like, I can't, like, I did
yes.
the most. I tried so hard to get all that ice out. And if it doesn't want to hold water, like, this practice is just done for the 100 days. I
No.
just have to surrender. But it held it. And I was like, yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but that it reminded me of when Ryan Lear said that, or some of the teachers at One Yoga said that it's like you'll be challenged on these 40 days if you're
Well,
really going to stick to the practice or not. And I
yeah.
did, and yeah, that was quite a an experience to go through.
Well, yeah, and I think that, that's why when I messaged you, I was like, this really speaks to the discipline that you're
Yeah,
having to get in the tub. But what you're explaining to me now is also, how like they say, I'm pretty sure it might be Krishna that says like to not be attached to the fruits of your
yes,
and like
yeah,
just yes, like the path is the journey, whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like also what is unseen, even though you probably wrote it. Like I know that you
yeah,
shared about that. You shared like
yeah,
saying, "Oh my God, this fucking thing, like I can't get
yeah,
it, whatever."
yeah.
It's like that is also this like unseen aspect of discipline and having to show up
Mm-hmm.
and still do it, So
Yeah,
not only are you like facing and putting yourself in these in this discomfort,
yeah,
but you're also like showing that you have this discipline to
yeah,
show up every day,
yeah,
even when you don't want to, or even
yeah,
when all of the messages of the universe are like,
yeah.
this thing is frozen, you
Yeah, you
cannot do
can't
it.
do it. It's like, no, I can.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it
It's
is.
so
It's
funny.
honestly discipline. And that's one of the sutras is bringing in the practice of discipline into your practice, right? It's like we practice with like the two sides of it, of with the discipline, but also with the reverence for it all too.
Right.
So I think that's the beauty of it all. I do have to wrap up because I got to get this baby's dinner going soon.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
is there any like last minute questions we should?
No, that was actually my last question for you. I was gonna
Okay.
see if you had anything else that you wanted to share, or if you feel like you missed anything, or if there's anything you feel that is
I
important.
think I always love sharing with people that I share a lot in my yoga classes, especially on those hard days. Like I always tell everyone if it's in yoga, if it's in cold plunging, if it's in showing up as a mom, it's like the hardest part is always just showing up. Like it's always just trying to get to the studio or signing up and actually being there, or with the cold plunges, like getting to the tub and getting in the water. But the one thing that I always like, I read it once in the Bhagavad Gita and it stuck out, and I was like, man, that's a friggin' solid quote right there. And it shared that on this path, effort never goes to waste and there is no failure. And I think that's such an important thing to remember. Like our effort, whatever we put in, however that looks, it will never go to waste. And like I always want people to know, like, don't think of yourself as like failing in this moment if you couldn't do the full vinyasa practice or that pose that you've been trying to get, or getting into the tub and staying in the water. Like anyone that goes in and stays for 10 seconds, you did it, you put in the effort. Don't think of that as a failure because you did it. So that's like such a powerful quote that I always want people to remember. Like effort never goes to waste and there is no failure on this path.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I remember when I read that in the Gita, and
Yeah.
it did something for me too. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt reaffirmed in that. So I'm glad that
Yeah.
you're closing with
Yeah.
that wonderful quote. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time
Thank
and for
you,
showing
Whitney.
up. Yeah, and sharing with us. It's been so good to
Yes.
sit here with you finally.
Yes,
Yeah,
finally, we made it happen.
yeah, for
And
sure. Okay, yeah.
when I go to Vancouver,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be
come.
finding you. Be like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
better
come.
just put your name, just say you'll sub so I can go to one of your classes.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. Oh, so good to chat with you.
All right, it's nice chatting with you. Take
All right.
care.
See you.
Bye. See you.